Hey guys, as you can tell, I'm in the favorite place, well, in my favorite place in the world, and that is right here in Moab, about to do a very special off-road review with my dream car. And there's only one question that we have to ask ourselves, and that is, should I take the harder option or the easier option? Because I'm driving, check it out, this! Oh my God, it's my dream car. If I won that $2 billion lottery, this is what I would have bought. It's an AMG 63 G63 G-Wagon, and here's the important part, squared. It's, well, it's the ultimate on-roader in terms of, I guess, presence, and the ultimate off-roader in terms of ability. And that's what we're about to find out here on Fins and Things. And we're gonna take it on some very interesting obstacles, including frame bender, one tree hill, and one more that I'm gonna surprise you with. So you might be asking yourself, why is this the ultimate off-roader? Well, to begin with, it's got 14 inches of ground clearance, and that's because of this. 4 portal axles. There are a number of ways to lift a car, but probably the most expensive and technically superior, I would say, way is with portal axles. And basically what happens is the drive shaft comes out of the differential, then there's a gear set that actually lowers it down to the wheels and then out. So it allows you to keep the drive shaft, the half shaft, and the drive shaft straight instead of like this in a normal lift. And so it goes out like this, power comes down out of the wheel, and you've got a really sophisticated, basically the way Unimog lifts itself, and that allows for better gear reduction and, of course, 14 inches of ground clearance where everything is tucked in underneath. Now, my one concern out here, all right, well, I have 2 concerns. My biggest concern is that this might be one of the only 2022 G-Wagon squared in the country, because it costs, get this, $359,000. And I bought it from Mercedes, and I do not want to even think about damaging it. Now, I've been to Moab, well, for the last 20 years, but if you're not familiar with Moab or the hundreds of different trails that you can find in this beautiful place, I suggest you check out Onyx Off-Road. Not only are they a great sponsor of ours, but we use them all the time when we're in places that we don't know. And best of all, you can download the maps right to your phone, so even if you're out of cell service, you still have complete access to your location. And so I think I'm one of the only people here in America who will actually take this thing off-road, at least in its first year. You may be wondering, what makes it so expensive? Well, carbon fiber there, pretty much everywhere. And in terms of tires, because let's face it, tires are the most important thing on an off-roader, this does not have the most ideal setup for off-roading. Good for, being a baller in LA, not so good for being here in Moab. And what I mean by that is we're rolling on 22s with Scorpion ATRs. So the tires are good, but way too much wheel, not enough tire. Now these are 325/55 R22s, and if you do the math, that translates to 36s. So they're 36s, but with a lot of 22-inch wheels in between them. What also makes it unique are, of course, these dual, actually quad exhaust pipes for the AMG version. And under the hood, and let's go look under the hood because you got to see this bad boy, is a V8 bi-turbo, but it's more than that. Let me pop the hood. It's a lot more than that, because this 4-liter twin turbo, let's see if I can figure out how to open this again. Oh, there it is. Produces, get this, 577 horsepower and 627 pound-foot of torque. Of course, hand-built by this person, and paired to a 9-speed, it's tall, 9-speed automatic transmission. And everything about this vehicle is vault-like, including, just the way it is built. Now, I did just drive this 700 miles from LA to here in Moab, so if you want to see that on-road review, head on over to alltfl.com. But today, it's all about off-road review. And it's going to be a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in show you all the off-road features, and then I'm gonna have to jump out, set up the camera, jump back in, do the obstacle, jump back out, get the camera. So it's kind of raw and unedited style. So probably sit back and relax. It's gonna be, you know, a long video, but I think it's worth it. You know, there's not a lot of these in the world, and to be able to take it out here in Moab, I figured it was worth driving it from LA here. By the way, these aren't trail rated. They are Schuck approved, which is a mountain in Europe that they test them on. And of course, if you know anything about the G-Wagons, you know they're all built and have always built in Austria at the Magna factory. Now look at these, look at that. That is probably 3 feet in the air in terms of the running board. So getting in this thing, you're like climbing into I don't know, the tallest of tall vehicles. I was driving it from California, and this guy in a Jeep was next to me, and he's looking up at me, and his jaw drops. And what I do is I look at him, and I notice that he's got mud on his Jeep. But get this, not on his Jeep, but on the roof of his Jeep. That's how tall I am. So to start up, easy peasy, push the button. And this is where it gets interesting, because this vehicle has not one, not two, but 3 lockers. So the first thing we want to do to get it in its off-road mode, and you know what, it also has a louder exhaust. So let's hit that. Why not? We're off-road. Let's hit it. So the first thing you would do is you want to put it in neutral. Come on, give me neutral. There's neutral. And then you push this button. That's the low range. Come on, turn on. Okay, now we're in low range, which is good. And then let's do something. Let's lock the front locker, actually center locker, and let's lock the rear locker. I don't want to lock the front locker because I don't think I need to lock it, and because it makes steering a vehicle very tricky indeed. All right, so first obstacle is pretty straightforward. It's metal bender, frame bender, and it's a steep downhill that basically tests how much clearance you have. And let's get over there. But before we even get to frame bender, we have to go over some pretty tricky little steps, which are, I think, on top, right behind that little hill that we're heading for. So what happens when you put it in low range is it sets itself up into the softest suspension settings, because it does have adjustable suspension, so things get mighty squishy, which is nice. And then you can also hit this button, which gives you a whole bunch of different camera views. So on the side, in the back, more back, front, and then this one, which I like because it gives you both. So you can see what's around you and what's in front of you. And of course, those yellow lines tell you where you're heading. And I gotta tell you, I feel like I am unstoppable in this G-Wagon, because the amount of ground clearance in this thing is just incredible. So even though the wheels and tires aren't grand, you know, the rest of this is pretty unstoppable. So I'm gonna run out, I'm gonna set up my camera outside, hit pause here, put it in park, and then you can see it going over these little steps. And these, you know, actually do create some issues for Jeeps that aren't lifted. So let me set up the camera, and you can watch it from the outside as I run it, so you can see how it's doing. Now keep in mind that we have taken everything that I can think of through here, including all sorts of trucks, including Raptors, TRXs, Jeeps, Broncos, Wranglers, you name it. We've gone through here in those vehicles. So I think I'll set it up like right about there. Now I've been coming to Moab for about 25 years, and it's gone from being kind of the sleepy little town to where people have figured out just how magic it is here. And now even when it's 31 degrees in November and freezing, people are here. When November used to be. So I can tell this is a really great test of approach departure and breakover. And this G-Wagon with its cushy suspension and its portal axles is just making easy work of this. I mean, I'm not struggling whatsoever. It's just easy peasy, lemon squeezy. There you have it. First time going down the hard course, and it wasn't even all that hard in this. And that's the thing, when you have a vehicle that's this competent, it makes this easy. All right, well, that was just a little taste of what's coming up, because the next obstacle is going to be a lot harder. We call it frame bender, and the reason we call it frame bender is because you can bend your frame on it, of course. So frame bender is next, and this one has a very steep downhill with a big step, and pretty much everything that we've ever brought here has hit itself on the frame when you go over that big step. And the reason for that, of course, is because it doesn't have enough ground clearance. But yeah, I gotta tell you, I am loving this. I feel like the hardest thing in the world to do is to, in the motorcycle world, build what we call a dual sport. So something that is both good on-road and good off-road. Because, and eventually, if you want to do something like that, what makes a vehicle good on-road is the exact opposite of what makes it good off-road. So you want to have a low center of gravity, well, off-road, on-road, but you want to have a vehicle that sits low, like a sports car on the road, but when you're off-roading, you want to have it sit high. You want to have firm suspension when you're on the road to control the vehicle, and when you're off-roading, you want to have soft suspension. And to be able to do both and to do it well is quite the engineering feat. All right, so now I'm here at frame bender. I'm going to run out. I'm going to put up the camera, and we can see if this thing actually ends up hitting. So let me go out here. And this right here, as you can tell, is frame bender. So there's a big step right there, and you can see what happens is, you can see all that, well, let me show you. You can see all these scratches. So you come, it's very steep. It's hard to tell how steep it is, but trust me, it's steep. And then, you hit your frame or your tail when you come over this. So I'm gonna set up my camera here, and we'll have the G go over it, and together we're gonna learn just, how good it is in terms of its ability to not hit when it goes over something this steep. So the camera is pretty low, so you should be able to see hopefully exactly if it hits or not. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. I'm gonna go over the hardest part right there. All right, here we go. It's a little, this can be a little nerve-wracking. And I apologize if I'm a little out of breath, but you need a pole vault to get in this thing. It's head high. And actually the angles of approach and departure are also being tested here, because you can scrape your butt. And normally when I do this, I would have a spotter to let me know when I'm going to go over the hardest part. So I think I'm going to go over it now. Just nice and slow. I'm using the cameras. There we go. I am what? Look at this, guys. No hands. That's how steep it is. And this is where you would scrape your nose. Didn't hit the frame. And I think the only thing I'm going to scrape here is the mud flaps. Let's see. Yep, mud flap. Only thing I'm going to scrape. Oh, I'm loving this thing more and more. They say don't meet your heroes, but I've met my hero, and it's quite heroic. Oh, look at that. We're Look at that. We're a little wobbly here. I think I'll stop there and go get the camera. A little wobbly, not too bad. And of course, the other thing you want is you want to be able to get as much articulation as possible. So check out that articulation, huh? Got that wheel stuffed in that wheel well pretty well. And then over here, this one is way in the air. I love that. And you can see the portal axles from the top here. Really good exposure. So as you can tell, you know, the diff comes straight out, and then because of the portal axles and the gear set, goes down to the wheel and then out. So it's straight, down, back, as opposed to having, you know, like a really funky angle that's not good for the universal joints, either in the half shaft or in the drive shaft. Keeps everything tucked up underneath. Really cool. Look at those brakes. All right, next. Jump in here. Oh my. One Tree Hill. And this is a test of the vehicle's traction. I'll see how it does going up a very steep grade. Oftentimes the cars and trucks we test here get stuck on this. Now I do have, like I say, 4 lockers, and I might actually lock the front on this so that basically 25% of the truck's power is going to each of the wheels. And make no mistake, I keep calling it a truck because it really is a truck. I mean, it's big. Now the difference, of course, between this generation of a G-Wagon and the last generation is that this one is bigger. The old one was really narrow, and even though it's a big box, it was still rather difficult to get 4 people in here who didn't like themselves or didn't like each other because it was so closed and tight. Now this one has become much more just friendlier for passenger, more leg room. I'm not squished, and of course tons of headroom. And the other thing that you need to know about this vehicle, of course, is that it's been kind of a interesting history because it was initially, I'm going to run outside and put the camera up there so you can see it going past One Tree Hill. And you may be wondering why we call this One Tree Hill, because of, well, can you see the one tree there? One Tree Hill. It was initially developed for the Shah of Iran back in the day. So the Shah was looking for a military vehicle, and they asked Mercedes to build him something, and this is what they came up with. And more than that, over the years, it's become, an iconic, not only four-wheeler, but an iconic Mercedes. Mercedes has found out that there seems to be no amount of money that people won't spend on it. Because $350, it's a big amount of money. All right, One Tree Hill. This is where sometimes what you end up doing coming up here is you end up losing traction. So I think I'll put the camera somewhere, hopefully where I won't run over it, and you can see me going up the hill. I'll put it right by the tree here, which is usually where we lose a little bit of traction. So let's see. Set up the camera. How does that work? Oh, it's going to fall over. Yeah, maybe zoom in. I don't know. We'll zoom out. All right, here we go. So we have a vehicle that was started out as a military vehicle that then became kind of this ultimate Mercedes off-roader for people in the know, that has now morphed into the ultimate status symbol for people driving around Brentwood and Hollywood. Go figure, huh? You know, a new G-Wagon starts at about, I want to say 175, and then when you get into the AMG, they're about 225 starting, and of course, this Ultimate G squared, 350. like I was saying, this is, the top dog at 350, which is a lot of money considering the base one starts at a mere 175. All right, here we go, up the hill. Why not? Lock the front. Why not? Can't hurt. There's this, I wouldn't call it a trap. I would call it that's locked. No, you're locked. This myth about like the way you want to drive off-road is, you drive around and then you get stuck, so then you lock your rear diff, and then you get unstuck, and then you drive some more and you get stuck again, then you lock your front diff. But really, that's not what you want to do. Over the years, having talked to a lot of people who do a lot of off-roading around the world, you just want to never get stuck. So if you've got 3 lockers, middle, front, and rear, just use them right away. Why get stuck? Then you got to hopefully, if you lock whatever you've got unlocked, get unstuck. But worse yet, I don't want to hit the roof on the G because it's so tall. But worse yet, then you got to get out the winch, or you got to get out the rope, and you got to get yourself unstuck. So just don't get stuck. So whatever you have, whether it's air suspension, lockers, use them, and use them right away. That's always a good. Now, in the past, going up that hill in Raptors and Jeeps, we get wheel spin, we get a little bit of trepidation because it starts to slide into the tree. The G, well, you saw it. It didn't sweat at all. And I didn't run over my camera, which makes for a good day. Oh, look at this. Let me give you just a quick view when I get back to the top here of Moab. Hold on, I'm gonna adjust the camera and zoom in a little bit. Look at that. Oh, somebody's got a 4Runner out here. But look at this. Look at how beautiful this is. And peaceful. There's that kind of desert serenity here. Yeah. Of course, being punctured by the V8 exhaust, side exhaust of the G. Yeah, how appropriate is that? Do I even have it in the loud mode? I thought I put it in the loud mode. Let's take a look. I don't. Oh yeah, now I have it in the loud mode. All right, one more obstacle, and then we'll have a conclusion to this video. All right, vault-like door. Look at that. I'm going to unlock the front, and the reason I do that is so I can steer. It's hard to steer with the front locked. And let's go down. What do we call this one? This is just an extremely steep downhill that at the bottom tests your approach and departure angle, because it's so steep that when it flattens out, you inevitably end up hitting. There are the LaSalle Mountains. Let me zoom in on them so you can see those. I mean, I feel like I'm doing a lot of work for the Moab Bureau of Tourism. Hey guys, if you're watching this, call us. I think we've helped you sell out Moab over the last 10 years more than probably anybody else, especially if you're into the off-roading. And you can tell, look, we've got ice. So I'm not going to go in the ice. The last thing I want is to get my wheels and tires wet right now, especially since I'm going to go down this very steep incline. But yeah, I got to say, I am more than impressed. All right, so let's see. Here's the big drop. All right, let me go out there and show you guys what we're looking at here, and then I'll run the camera down, and we'll do one more obstacle before we wrap this up. So I gotta be honest, I've forgotten what we call this. Terror Mountain? I don't know. I forgot. But it's such a steep downhill area that, so here it is. Here, I'll make it, is this steeper or is this steeper? Which one's steeper? This one? Maybe this one's steeper. So what is happening is you kind of come down here, slide, slide, slide. You don't have any grip, you hit this loose stuff, and then right there, if you don't have good approach and departure, you end up either scratching your nose or scratching your belly. I'm being very careful here because, like I say, it is very steep. So yeah, let me put the camera down, and we'll do the hill together. And you can be the judge of how much it hits or not. All right, we'll be out of breath again. Going up the hill. Yeah, that's loose sand, all right. All right, up the hill we go. I know I have 577 horsepower, and I'll probably need about 50 of that. Oh yeah, here we go. Like I said, you hang by your seatbelt. This is better than any ride at Disney. Oh my, sliding. This has got to be close to 45, maybe 50 degrees of drop. And coming to the bottom, and yeah, it didn't hit anywhere. How about the back? Nope, didn't hit the back. Love this truck. Oh my, love it, love it, love it. Unstoppable. All right, let me go get the camera, and we'll wrap this up. Now I do have to thank Mercedes for trusting me enough to hand me the keys to the G-Wagon squared. You know, I feel like you might be thinking to yourself, drive it like you stole it, but I was never one of those kids to break their toys. That was never me. I've always appreciated keeping things shiny and unscratched. Look at that. It's just, you could drop a camera in Moab, then you end up with an Instagram picture. It's just so beautiful. Now, I was seriously considering doing Hell's Revenge, because this whole video, this G made it look easy. And Hell's Revenge is tougher than Fins and Things. But I do have one main concern, and that is right there. Those AMG wheels, they kind of almost stick out a little farther. And going into Hell's Revenge, there's a lot of rocks where you would chunk up those wheels. And frankly, I'm just grateful. There comes a doggy. Hey, doggy. I'm just grateful that Mercedes, you see how steep it is, even the dog's having a hard time. Just grateful that Mercedes let me this, so I don't want to abuse that privilege. So guys, like I said, sometimes you meet your heroes and it's disappointing, and sometimes you meet your heroes and they're everything and more than you thought they would be. And this G-Wagon squared is that. I hope if you have a lottery winning number and you've got $359,000 sitting around somewhere to spare, that you invest in this. The last G-Wagon squares started at $250, and you know how car prices usually go down and then come back up. It never went down. It actually might even be a good investment. Maybe this video is going to make it even a better investment. Anyway, as always, this is Roman saying, check out alltfl.com if you want to see my road trip here and see how it is on the road. And of course, there's more G-Wagon videos coming when we get back to Boulder at the end of this week. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time. Ciao.